Alright everybody, welcome back for some World of Warships. Today I'm going to be showing you the best match that I had when I was still using the U.S.S. Langley before I sold it when I finished my research for the boat. So starting out, the first thing I do, especially when I get this map in particular, is get the ship moving someplace with some kind of cover, or at least moving so you're not just a sitting target in case you get discovered by either a destroyer that sneaks in or enemy torpedo planes from the other ship. Now, there's only one other carrier in this match, and it's also a Langley, so we're evenly matched up as far as air groups. So initially, I send my fighters down to cover my two battleships down there. And I can see another battleship, a couple battleships, and some cruisers, and all the enemy planes over there. So I'm trying to get my fighters in on his fighters, but you'll see that the click misses. But he gets his fighters in on mine, so I get the end result that I wanted, which was engaging his fighters, which keeps his fighters off of my torpedo planes and bombers, which I have now seen their carrier over there in, what is he, about G9, so I'm going to send my torpedo planes and bombers on a long roundabout route to get to him along the edge of the map there. You notice my fighters are actually doing rather well there. You'll see in a second, my fighters come off the better, even though they didn't actually initiate the engagement like I was trying to get them to. They were attacked rather than attacking, but we come off all right. And there we go. Shot down 6 fighters for the loss of 4. Not the best ratio, but it's better than losing. Now I know his fighters are reconstituting, so I'm going to send mine back and take advantage, and before I run into some AAA or something that knocks another fighter down, and I end up losing the whole group or something, I send mine back to reload and have them come back with a full group of 6. So you can see the battle is developing fairly well for us up north, and doesn't look that great for us down in the south, although we've got 2 battleships and a cruiser down there. And we kind of didn't do anything in the middle. We've got one guy. You see we've lost a destroyer and a cruiser already. We've got a cruiser in the center going up against 2 other cruisers. And he's got bombers on the way for him. So I'm watching, I see the bombers coming, and there we go. I was just waiting for my fighters to get ready, and then I can send them off. Now, unfortunately, by the time my fighters... That's one thing with the Langley, is the aircraft are just so slow. And by the time my fighters get there, get airborne, and can get themselves headed over, the bombers are already in on target on our cruiser there, Pie of Doom. And unfortunately, there's just not enough time to get there and save him from the bombing. I don't know if he took hits from the bombing or not. Now I'm going to send my bombers and my torpedo planes in on his carrier, and I sent them up a little far north so they could avoid the 2 battleships there, because I don't know what kind of AAA we're going to have to face. I don't have time to zoom in, but my bombers actually do get a good strike there, and then I'm going to send them back the roundabout way rather than across the middle where those AAA planes, or cruisers rather, are. So my fighters missed out on chasing down his bombers, but I put him on the torpedo planes because as soon as his bombers dropped their bombs and there were torpedo planes coming in who still had their offensive load, the torpedo planes became a bigger priority. Now, unfortunately, I was too late to save the cruiser in the center, but I can at least get after his torpedo planes and just annihilate them, which is what happens. So now, my torpedo planes are under attack, and I'm trying to get my fighters in and distract his fighters off to get my torpedo planes in. I've already lost one, and in a second I'll lose another one, unfortunately, before they can make their torpedo run. There we go. Sadly, they did get 4 torpedoes off, but I did get my fighters in on his fighters, and then my fighters almost immediately wipe his fighters out, so I'm feeling pretty good about the whole fighter aircraft situation now. I get 2 good hits with torpedoes on the carrier. I'm not sure how much damage they did, but they had to be pretty significant. And then right after that, his bombers come along, and you can see twice now. I try to click on the bombers to attack them, and I can't get them. There we go. So finally, if that happens, just click farther away, and your guys will stop trying to think that you're clicking on the same waypoint. Alright, so you can see the south, things are looking good and bad at the same time. Our two battleships are moving around on the low south there, and we've got two more battleships coming in on point C against our lone cruiser. Now, as a result of those two battleships down there in the south by sea getting a little too close for my comfort and the cruiser heading directly towards me, I get my ship moving. So I've got the carrier still moving out. Got my attack aircraft heading back in to land and rearm. And my fighters are just hanging out right there waiting for the next thing to come out of his... launch off his aircraft carrier. And that cruiser up north just killed our friendly cruiser up north there, Bariska 1947, just killed the cruiser who was heading towards me from the north. So all that's left up there that's dangerous is their destroyer, which you can see right at the bottom of A. My fighters are in after his bombers, which should be about the end of his aircraft wing, I believe. So now they've got half their ammo load, and I'm going to send them up. Initially, I tried to send them up and just hang out over the top of that destroyer so that our cruiser and battleship up there can see the torpedoes as soon as he launches them. And then I get my bombers and torpedo planes heading off down towards C there to go after those one battleship that's left. So comment down below in the comments if any of you just checked your Skype messages. That was the Skype from my video when I was recording this. So don't worry, it wasn't you. Or maybe it was, in a crazy coincidence. Alright, so my fighter group is arriving up where that destroyer is, trying to spot him for our guys up there. And you can see now, we're down to 4 on 4, and we're set up rather better than they are, with 3 battleships and my carrier with all my groups left against 1 of each for them. So they've got a bit more flexibility in their available vehicles, but we've got much better offensive firepower. And there goes the destroyer. Destroyer just got knocked out by a battleship. So the destroyer's no longer a problem, which frees up my fighters to go after his. Now, this battle here was kind of funny. This attack, rather. So we've got a Mayogi down here. I'm trying to set up my torpedo planes for a manual drop on him to get in nice and close. And my bombers come in at the same time. And I'll show you what ends up happening. And something I learned since this battle. This battle, I did this match a while ago. It's been probably a month. So my bombers get in and get a good hit and set him on fire. And he probably uses his repair. So now we're looking pretty good. It's the cruiser up there in the north at A, the battleship down in the south, and then their carrier over there in the east in those islands against our 3 battleships plus my carrier. And I actually get a strike on that Mayogi down there with my torpedoes, which I don't know if it knocked out it didn't cause any flooding, and I don't know if it knocked out his steering or anything. Well, never mind. I know it didn't because I didn't get any incapacitations. But it did a pretty good amount of damage, and he's down to just about nothing, and he's got 2 of our battleships closing in on him, so I get my fighters in as spotters now because there's nothing really left for them to do. I know that their carrier is out of planes. So I'm going to have my fighters come in and just hang out. And I thought initially I sent him down there to spot for those guys because that battleship had disappeared. But as soon as he reappeared and our guys were back within distance, I sent him back again because the 2 battleships can handle it and they've knocked him out there. So the south is covered. It's just the cruiser up in the north and the carrier over to the east there. So now I'm going to put my fighters in to spot. I'm going to send my bombers in to attack him as soon as they're ready to launch again, and my torpedo planes as well. Now you'll notice up at A, things just went south for us. That cruiser just knocked out our battleship that was up there. Ready for takeoff. So that's very bad. So immediate priority target for me is the cruiser up at A. The carrier is really nothing at this point. Now our battleships are steaming north as quickly as they can. And if I was in any danger, I could get my ship moving and turn around and head back south. But I decided to risk it and see if I can attack him myself first. So line up the attack here. And this particular combined attack is similar but different to the way it went down at sea earlier on that Myogi, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when the planes arrive.
Group 2, standing by for instructions. Over.
So my fighters are basically just overhead to try and distract from, hopefully draw the AAA fire, whatever AAA fire there is. So I'm trying to line up my bombers for a manual drop, and he starts cranking his ship around. So my torpedo planes have already launched, and I can't really do anything about it. So I get my bombers in. I didn't have time to set them up for a manual drop, and they all miss. All 6 bombs miss, but they distracted him probably enough that he didn't see that torpedo coming, and watch this hit. And he floods out. That made me extremely happy. So now we've got our 2 battleships heading up to B to capture it, and we know the carrier is hanging out over there somewhere in those islands. And victory is a foregone conclusion at this point, of course. Even with their, holding 2 of the capture zones as opposed to our holding 1. It doesn't matter. We're going to get in on that carrier long before we're going to bleed out by ticket points. Now, what I should have done, as soon as I killed that cruiser up north, I should have got my Langley's engines in gear and tried to sail for A to cap it. It ends up, of course, not mattering, but that's something I should have paid attention to. That was a mistake on my part, not getting the ship moving. I wasn't thinking so much about capturing A more than I was just thinking about getting my planes over there and finishing the enemy Langley off and just winning the game. There we go. We've swung the tickets back in our favor.
Group 2, standing by for instructions. Over.
So now I've just got my fighters just hanging out overhead. And what you really can't do with any carrier except the Langley, have your fighters hang out overhead just to spot them, because every carrier after the Langley is going to have some kind of AAA firing up at you. And they will knock your planes out eventually if your planes hang out there long enough. So it's just a matter now of waiting for my 1920s biplanes to wing their way across the expanse of the ocean here and arrive at their target. So I'm getting my bombers set up for a manual drop, and the torpedo planes are just going to try to come in from whatever best possible angle they can get. Now, one thing I don't do here, but I've learned since then, is if you're trying to set up a manual drop for your bombers to come in lengthwise down the deck of a carrier, have them go to a waypoint above where you want them to, at the angle you want them to come in from, and then you can set it up. Same thing with the torpedoes. Have them head for a waypoint first that lines them up with the side they want to drop on. Now, I don't know if this guy was AFK driving or if he just decided, whatever, I don't care, I can't get away from this, but he doesn't try to maneuver. And good on him. He accepted his fate, but there it is. We win.
We've sunk an enemy aircraft carrier.
And this actually wasn't even a 1.5 bonus, unfortunately, so it could have been even better. But thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed another World of Warships Wednesday, and I will talk to you all soon.